Are you one of the many people who spend hours creating custom Unmatched decks only to realize you haven't had a chance to test even half of them? Do you have a great deck idea but can't quite get it to feel the way you want it? Well, I think what you need is the Unmatched Playtesting Guild. The Playtesting Guild is an event started by Fanaka66 on the Unmatched subreddit where players work together to play and provide feedback on fan-made decks in order to earn points. Each new round will feature a deck submitted by the current highest point holder, giving incentive to keep participating until you get your deck in the spotlight. So, grab your favorite custom deck and head on over to the Playtesting Guild. What's up guys, Zero Skater here, and today we're going to be taking a look at round 11 of the Playtesting Guild, this round featuring the famous samurai Sasaki Kojiro. This deck was created by Gary M., who is one of the guys who co-organized the recent Unmatched tournament with me, and he's known on the Discord for making just a crazy amount of fan decks, and he does really good work, so I'm very excited to be trying out one of his decks today. If you guys missed it, last episode we took a look at Negan from The Walking Dead, created by Fanaka66, and Fanaka and Gary are the guys who run the Playtesting Guild, so they do a great job, so make sure you go check that out and participate yourself, and maybe you can get one of your decks in the spotlight. And as always guys, make sure you attack that like button if you enjoy the video, and subscribe for more Unmatched content. And with all that said, let's go take a look at Sasaki Kojiro. Alright guys, here we are back at the Unmatched Maker website and taking a look at Sasaki Kojiro, made by Gary M. And it looks like this is version 0.5, so I'm guessing it's undergone some changes already, so we'll get to play with the most recent version. And like before, this is a blind review. I have not looked at this deck before, so you're going to get my live reaction to everything. So let's go ahead and take a look at the deck. Sasaki Kojiro looks like is a melee fighter with 13 starting health, which is very low. I believe tied with Alice and Robin Hood for lowest in the game. And he also does not have a sidekick, so that's especially low for a solo fighter. So we'll see how that works out. Basic movement value of 2. And the special ability reads, when the result of combat would be determined, if your card value is equal to your opponent's, increase your value by 2. Wow, that could be very powerful. If you think about Alice's ability, plussing 2 to all her attacks, that's huge. And let's say you attack with a value 4 attack into something like a skirmish or a leap away, which are really common. You're going to bump yours up to a 6, and you're going to deal 2 damage over those and negate their movement ability. So that is really strong. So this ability could be crazy, although I don't know how often it's going to trigger. Maybe there's some tricks and things in the deck that let you, modify that to your favor, but we're going to have to see. I think the more often this can trigger, obviously, the better off you're going to be in the game. It doesn't really do much on defense because if you're already tied on defense, you're already not taking damage, so it doesn't really matter. So it's really only going to make a difference with attacks. So you're basically trying to be Big Alice as often as you can, but it could potentially be every single attack, which is crazy. And then pretty sweet card back here, very colorful, so I love that. One last thing I do want to mention too is that it says when the result of the combat would be determined, so I'm assuming things like Momentous Shift or an ambush that modify the value during combat, it takes the modified result when determining this ability. So correct me if I'm wrong, Gary, but that's how I'm going to interpret it here. So our first card here is going to be called Thoughtless Action, and it's a red 0 value card with a 4 boost value, which is incredibly high, 2 copies. And it reads, immediately, this card is a copy of the top card of your discard pile. If that card is a scheme, resolve its effects immediately, and this card's value is 0. Alright, this card is pretty insane. We've never seen any card effects, I believe, that basically get to reuse schemes yet in the game. So that could be crazy depending on what schemes are in this deck. It also says... It doesn't say anything about if the top card of the discard pile is a defense card, so I'm assuming that there's not going to be any defense cards in this deck and that they would all be attacks or versatiles, but we're going to find out. But anyways, I just think that who knows how good this card's going to be. It really depends on the rest of the deck. It could be totally insane, but just the ability to reuse some of your most powerful cards is very strong potentially. The only problem is that this card is an attack card and not a versatile. So if you happen to use that really good card that you want to reuse again, and that was your last action, and then your opponent attacks you, now you're in a choice whether or not to defend, and that ruins that top card of the discard pile that you wanted to copy, but blocks damage, of course. Or you don't defend, and you take a big hit that you didn't necessarily want to take in order to reuse that card effect that you really wanted on the top of the discard pile. So it's a trade-off there. So it's going to make some interesting decisions throughout the game. So I'm really interested to see where this card goes. And then we're going to have a red 2-value attack with a 3 boost value called Sundering Blow that reads, during combat, the opponent blind boosts this card. Okay, so first thought is that this card is like an ambush because it's the same stat line and a similar effect, except the opponent, instead of losing a random card out of their hand, they're losing that random card off the top of their deck. So overall, in terms of like deck capacity throughout a game and taking fatigue into consideration, it is just as detrimental as ambush, although they don't have to like lose that hand advantage, so it's not as much of an immediate impact to the game state, but still very powerful. And the fact that with ambush, at least when you draw a good card, let's say you're Dracula and you draw that beast form, you can use it quickly if you know the opponent has ambush in their deck, whereas with this blind boosting it, you have no control over where the beast form is in your deck. So if it's still in your deck, it's still at the mercy of this card hitting it off the top for that blind boost. So that's really, really scary. Overall, though, really cool card. Happy to see that one. It's very interesting. And then next up we have, looks like 3 copies of Daring Strike. I believe we've seen this card before in Buffy's deck, which is that red 4 that you draw 2 if you win the combat, but you take a damage if you lose the combat. And let's see, it says after combat if you won, draw 2 cards, otherwise take a damage. So it is indeed that same effect as Buffy's, although I see the value is modified to a 3 instead of a 4. Not exactly sure why. I'm guessing that's just to give more variety in the card values for this deck, since it wants to tie and gain its +2 buff from the ability off of the ties. So if they were all, you know, 4s or 2s, then you're not going to have much variety and you're not going to be able to call out those defenses that your opponent is using and try to tie them purposefully. So I'm guessing that's why it's a 3 instead of a 4, but I think this card is okay, but it's going to be hard to pull it off because if it's going into a feint, your ability's canceled, and if it goes into a skirmish or a leap away, you're not winning like you would have if it was a 4, because then it would bump to a 6 over the skirmish because of the ability and you'd win. So overall, not too happy to see this at a 3. I think it's kind of weak. I guess another point with this Daring Strike, though, is that if it was a 4, and it would basically win every combat, because if it's tying, it's winning by 2. If it's against a 3, it's winning. And if the only other thing is a 2, and that would be a feint probably, which would cancel it. But then you're still dealing 2 damage. So I guess it would be a little bit too strong if it was a 4. So I get it. I get it. So looking on to the next card is another red 2, 3 boost value, Momentary Glimpse. Says after combat, gain an action. If the opponent played a card, your next attack this turn gets +2. Wow, this card is strong. So it's kind of like a Jeet Kune Do from Bruce, where you get to gain an action, or They Remember from the Raptors, being that same 2 value. And then if the opponent played a card, your next attack this turn gets +2. That's a huge buff. And I guess like you could get that +2 anyways from your ability, but if you play a 6, it doesn't even have to tie. It's straight up a 6. So if they were to feint it, they would take 4 damage. So this card seems crazy good. There's only 2 copies in the deck, but very powerful card. And then we're going to see our first versatile card called Tsubame Gaeshi. My pronunciation's probably terribly off, but I'm doing my best here. It's a 4 value versatile with another 4 boost value, so very high yet again. 2 copies of this that reads, after combat, if you won the combat, deal damage to the opposing fighter equal to the difference between the attack value and the defense value. If the opponent did not play a card, their defense value is 0. Wow, this card could just be insane. So on defense, it will bump to a 6. And then you're going to deal 2 auto damage to the opponent. I'm saying, of course, if they attacked it with a 4 and you defended with this also being a 4, your ability buffs it, and then you're going to deal that 2 auto damage after combat. So it's like a counter punch there. And if you're attacking with this into a skirmish, let's say, you're also going to deal 2 from the attack because you're attacking with your 6 into their 4, and you won the combat, so you're going to deal 2 additional. And then if you attack them with this and they don't defend, that's going to deal 4 damage from the attack and 4 damage from the after combat ability of this card. So that's 8 damage for an undefended attack. That's almost a Stone Gaze from Medusa. So, because Stone Gaze does 2 plus 8, so 10, this still does 8. So incredibly, incredibly strong card here with a 4 boost value. This card is going to win games. I think this one is absolutely insane. Alright, so let's move on to the next card here. We're going to have, okay, Momentous Shift, 2 copies, 3 value, 1 boost value. During combat, if your fighter started this turn in a different space, this card's value is a 5 instead. So the classic Momentous Shift. I think this card is actually a little bit weak in this deck because if it's fainted, you deal 1 damage like normal. If they defend with something like a skirmish, I keep using that as an example, but that's like my baseline, like good defense card example. So if they defend with a skirmish into a shift, you deal 1, and it could be better. You know, if this was a 4 value card and didn't bump to the 5, it was just a blank 4, you deal 2 over a skirmish, you would deal 2 over a feint. So Momentous Shift in this deck is kind of just mediocre, but you know, you can use it on defense as well, and that 3 value would bump to a 5 if it's tied. So I don't know, it's an okay card. And then moving on, we're going to have another unique card here called the Demon of the Western Provinces. So it looks like there's 3 copies of this card. It's a 1 value, so much like a regroup. You got a 3 boost value though, which is pretty high. And it says, immediately, if the opponent's printed card value is 3 or greater, ignore their card value. Wow. Okay, so this makes me think of something like Impossible to See, or even like Deduce Strategy in a way from Sherlock, because you're ignoring their card value if the printed value is 3 or greater. So thinking about that, the only cards that are really going to do damage over this card is something like a feint. You know, attacking into this with a feint will deal 1 damage, but that's not that strong anyways. So really, you have Ambush is the big one, because Ambush is not going to get the card value ignored. It's going to still trigger its effect, because this Demon of Western Provinces doesn't cancel effects, it just negates the values. But the Ambush is going to trigger its effect, it's going to bump up the value, still deal huge damage over this 1. So not a great card against Ambush, but against everything else, it's a really, really powerful defense card. It is versatile, so using it as an attack, I guess, you know, you could deal 1 damage attacking into something like a skirmish or a leap away or a Momentous Shift or whatever. You know, a lot of defenses are 3 or more, so I guess you can use this as an attack and still deal a damage through it. That's why it's a 1 value and not something more powerful, because then it would be just way too much easy damage output that the opponent can't really do anything about. So yeah, I don't know. This is an interesting card. It's definitely quite powerful, and we're going to have to see how this one plays out. Next up, we're going to have a 2 value versatile called Exposed Flaws. After combat, draw 1 card for each damage that was prevented. Okay, interesting. So let's think, if you use this on defense, it's a 2 value, so you're preventing 2 damage. I'm assuming it's going to draw you 2 cards in that case. And if you use it on attack, I'm guessing that it goes off of the damage that the opponent prevented. So if they defend with a 4, I mean, you're still just defending against the 2 damage that would have been dealt if there was no defense, right? So even using it on offense, this card should draw you 2 cards. At least that's how I'm taking it. Gary, you're going to have to clarify on this one. It's kind of a weird one, but I'm trying to think, if you bump up the value to a 4, if you're attacking with this because of your ability, your opponent is still only preventing 2 damage if they defend with a 2, that causing this to bump up. And if you defend with this against a 2 attacking, this is going to bump to a 4, but you're still only preventing the 2 damage that the opponent's attack of 2 would have dealt to you if you didn't defend. So I'm guessing in every case this is going to draw you 2 cards. So I'm a little confused as to the wording and why it says draw 1 for each damage that was prevented. I don't see how that number would ever be different than 2. So Gary, give me some clarification if you have it. And overall, I mean, if this is a 2-value versatile draw 2, not a bad card. And then we're going to see another common card here that's Dash. It looks like there are 3 copies of Dash in the deck. It's your basic 3-value versatile. After combat, move your fighter up to 3 spaces. So Dash is a good card at, you know, breaking combos on defense because you can move away and not get double attacked. It's an okay card on offense against certain fighters like Dracula or Medusa where you don't want to end either next to them or in their zone so you can get away from those abilities. So Dash is overall, it's a good card, and especially in a deck like this where that 3 value can become a 5 if you're attacking into another 3, that can be potentially really powerful. So it's your basic Dash, although it has even more upside than a regular deck would using this card, so I think Dash is going to be quite a powerful card in the deck. And so moving on, we're going to see Ebb and Flow. It is a 4-value purple, 2 boost value, 3 copies in the deck. Says after combat, move Kojiro up to 1 space, then Kojiro may swap spaces with an adjacent fighter. Then move Kojiro up to 1 space again. Very interesting card. So you move him 1 space, then you can swap with somebody who's adjacent, then you can move again. So if you are against a melee fighter and you use this on defense, if you move away, you don't get to swap. You could swap with a different fighter, like a sidekick or something, if there was another one that you got adjacent to, but 1 space isn't a lot of movement to get you to that point. So most likely, you just get to move, step back 1 space, and maybe avoid a combo, or you swap and then you can step. So like if you're in a pin situation, I guess this would help because you can swap and then move away. So not only do you get out of the pin, but you also avoid getting double attacked, at least against a melee fighter, in that same, you know, effect. So Ebb and Flow, quite a good card. Another 4-value versatile is just powerful in general in this deck because these cards are going to be insane, being able to be 6 attack value on offense, attacking into a 4. So very good card there. And then we're going to see another 1-value versatile called Clash, which says during combat you may boost this card. After combat, if you won the combat, the opponent discards a card. Okay, so being able to boost a card like this is not appealing because it's only a 1 starting value. So you think about Second Shot from Medusa starting at a 3, and this pales in comparison, right? But if you win the combat, your opponent has to discard a card. Now, they get to choose the discard, so it's not as powerful as something like an ambush, but it's still really good. And being able to use this on defense is huge because it's easier to win on defense, right? And also, you got to think about the ability of Kojiro here, because if you attack with this into, let's say, a dash, you only need to boost with a 2 boost value, which is going to bump your 1 to a 3. Your ability is going to bump your 3 to a 5. Now you're going to beat the dash by 2 points of damage, and your opponent is going to have to discard a card. So it's going to be really easy to get this to trigger because of the ability in combination with your control over the boost. And that's going to make this card really, really powerful. So watch out for this one because Clash is definitely going to be a devastating card. And let's see what's up next. We have, okay, the last 2 cards in the deck is the only scheme card here called Stillness of the Mind. And it reads, draw 2 cards, then choose 1. Either recover 2 health or gain an action. Okay, so let's think about this. If you draw 2, gain an action, it's similar to 2 free maneuvers, you know, without the movement, but you get the cards and you don't lose any actions. Or you draw 2, heal 2. That's, I guess, similar to a Looking Glass effect, you know, from Alice. So that's pretty strong there as well. Flexibility is not something to underestimate in any card in this game. I think that it really increases the power level, just being able to use whatever effect benefits you the most at that time. But this could be crazy with that first attack card that we saw. This Thoughtless action. So if your opponent is melee, let's say, and they maneuver and they attack you and they end their turn next to you, you could start with that scheme to draw 2 and gain an action, and then you can attack with Thoughtless action, and it's going to copy that scheme effect yet again. So what you could do is you draw 2 more cards, and then you can either do the heal or you gain another action. And then that could be 4 cards drawn with 0 actions used and a defense pulled out from your opponent's hand. So that's just crazy combo potential as well, because you can chain into another one of these. Granted, it's kind of limited because you don't have any recursion on your to get cards back from the discard pile for like your combos like Bruce Lee does, but there's still some pretty huge combo potential here. So I think Stillness of the Mind is a very powerful card. And that's going to do it for the deck. So if you want to take a look at the deck stats here, you have 10 attack cards with 18 versatiles, so 28 different attacks. That's a lot. Like I said, like I thought, there are no pure defense cards in this deck, and only 2 schemes. So with 18 versatiles, that's actually a lot of potential defense, even though there aren't any pure blues. So that's ample defense, ample attacks, only 2 schemes, which the schemes draw, so you're always going to have cards to use for combat. That's no worry in this deck, I would think. A thing to note is there are no passes in this deck because your only schemes draw 2 cards, so that's a net gain of cards, and so there's no passes to be done. So you're going to just have to rely on combat. If your opponent is trying to stall you out, you don't really have much to fight back against that other than just being aggressive and trying to just push through. So just a quick recap of the deck. You got your schemes that are going to draw, and then you get your choice of health gain or gaining actions. You got Clash, which is going to potentially boost up to huge values for damage and also make the opponent discard cards. You got your Ebb and Flow, is kind of like your version of Skirmish for the deck. Then you got your Dash, which is just dash, more movement. Exposed Flaws, that's some draw power again. The Demon of Western Provinces, that's the card that ignores the opponent's value, so that's good at blanking cards if you use this as an attack and getting a point of damage through, or for fully blocking damage if you use this on defense, so really powerful card there. You got your Momentous shifts. You got Tsubame Gaeshi. That card is just crazy. That's, I think, where most of your damage is going to come from. That card is just absolutely insane, and I'm very excited to try that one out. And then you got Momentary Glimpse. This is the combo card because you're going to gain the action and buff your next attack, so that card's really good. You got your Daring Strikes. Again, more draw power. Sundering Blows. That is just going to bump up to a big value because the opponent blind boosts, so not only is it going to be big value, but it's also going to pull cards out of your opponent's deck, so it's going to shorten their clock when it comes to fatigue. And then you got your Thoughtless action, which is going to copy whatever it was you played last. So this card, I'm sure there's tons of setups that I'm not thinking of at the moment, but we'll realize during gameplay. So I'm sure this Thoughtless action card is just going to be crazy. And yeah, so that's the deck. It's really hard to say how good this deck is going to be because you don't know how many times you're going to actually pull off his ability and tie during combat in order to get that +2 buff. And like I mentioned earlier, it only really matters on offense is when you want to tie, because on defense, you already won the combat anyways. The only thing that's going to make a difference for, I believe, is something like Clash. Actually, no, because you're winning anyway. So the only thing that's really going to make a difference for is this Tsubame, because it will deal the difference in values as auto damage. So your defense buffing up higher than their attack makes a difference in values dealing the damage. So that's the only time the ability of his is really going to matter on defense, but you're going to be looking to get it on offense as often as you can, much like Alice being big. So it really, his success, I think, depends on that ability and how often you can pull it off. But he does have a good spread of values. You got 2s, 3s, 4s, potential 5s even, and 1s, and even 0s if that matters. It might into something like a Bewilderment. So yeah, he's got a good variety of cards to match up with his ability, and we're going to see how often that kicks in. But I'm really excited to try it out, so let's head on over to Tabletop Simulator and give it a go. Alright guys, anybody watching? Thanks for checking it out. We are going to be playing round 11 of the Playtesting Guild today, and it's going to be featuring Sasaki Kojiro, a deck created by Gary M. And Gary does great work with all of his decks. He's created like a million of them, so he's a veteran at this point. And joining me, I got Matt, also known as MSW7C, on the Discord, and he is the one who manages all the results tracking spreadsheets and all that. So he's a big part of the Unmatched community. So how you doing, Matt?
Good, John. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for coming on. And so just like guys with last episode, we're going to discuss the deck ahead of time. We're going to play some games, and then we'll try and get Gary on for an interview at the end, and he'll give some thoughts. So first of all, Matt, you had a chance to look over the deck, right?
I did.
Sweet. Okay, so any initial thoughts?
So many thoughts. Let me just start with general stuff, and then we can maybe talk about a couple cool cards, because there's a lot of interesting stuff and unique stuff in here. I would say, I think you probably want to counter him, and when I say him, I mean Kojiro, with fighters who have as many of the following as possible. You want someone with a bunch of movement, you want range, you want sidekicks, definitely want action passes like heals and card recycles, because you really want him to chase so you can exhaust him. I feel like because he's only got the 13 total health, the 2 move, no sidekick, and he burns through cards really quick, especially if you're getting a lot of those effects to trigger, it's going to be a short and swift game. And in a way, maybe like Angel, he just is not going to be someone who lasts to the end. So if you're countering him with someone like, you've got the obvious guys like Bigfoot, Dracula, Sherlock, they're all going to do well. But in terms of maybe an underrated fighter who's going to do well, I think Invisible Man's a great pick. I even think King Arthur's a great pick for reasons we can maybe get into a little bit more on some of the specific card interactions.
Okay.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, he seems like such a wild card because it really depends how many times you're going to pull off his ability, right? If you're pulling it off a lot, you're going to be like Big Alice at all times, and that's crazy. It really just depends. He does have a good, diverse range of values, so he's able to call out what the opponent's going to be defending with. So if he calls it right, he's going to play the card that's going to tie purposefully in order to use his ability to bump it by 2 and deal that 2 damage over their card. So I don't know. I think first glance he seems really powerful, but it's really hard to say how it's actually going to play out.
Yeah, a lot of math. I think I don't know if you're planning to card count. I am not on these fan deck matchups, but I will play my best competitively. Just not planning to do the specific online card counter on the database. But I think that doing that both for Kojiro players and then obviously their opponents is a massive advantage because there is so much math involved in trying to make that ability work for you or against you, or not against you. Right. So, the more you know and the more the odds are in your favor, the better off you're going to be in the long term.
Sure. And now, you said you think he's going to burn through his deck quickly because he has no passes, I'm assuming?
So it's a combination of a lot of things. He's got a bunch of different cards that draw not just 1, but 2 cards at a time, and there aren't really too many good ways to get out of it. So let me find an example of this.
Okay.
So Exposed Flaws is a good example. So you're drawing 1 card for each damage that was prevented. It's a 2-value versatile card. He's got 2 of them in deck. You're almost always going to result in drawing 2 cards by playing that. Because if I'm understanding the effect right, if you attack with it, it's very unlikely, unless you're attacking someone who's undefended or they're defending with something like a regroup, that you're not going to have both of those 2 damages defended. And then, of course, if you're using it with defense, the opposite is true. So you're going to draw 2 cards, which isn't always a bad thing, but it's just one of, I think, at least 3, maybe even 4 different cards in the deck, 4 different types of cards, and he's got multiple copies of them, that let you draw 2 cards at a time. Daring Strike's another one. You got to be really careful with that one because in his deck, I think drawing 2 cards is sometimes a curse rather than a blessing. And then on the other side, if you're not winning the combat with Daring Strike, you're taking damage. Mm-hmm. So that one's tough. And then the heal, like you talked about, Stillness of Mind. You're playing that twice. You might even be tempted to play it more because you can combine it with the Thoughtless action that lets you resolve a scheme immediately.
Sure.
But I just don't think you ever want to do that because, again, he's going to be maneuvering a ton. He's going to have to chase people, especially if you follow the tactics that I mentioned at the top with who's a good counter for him and people who have a lot of range and movement. So I think all those come together and say he's probably going to run through his deck pretty fast. And so if you're the opponent, you want that, and you want him to be burning cards and potentially taking exhaustion damage because there's just not a whole lot of health there.
Sure. Okay, so I mean, you're thinking that as the opponent, you want to play very defensively and force him to be the aggressor.
Totally. Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't really think about that ahead of time, but after hearing you say that, I would definitely agree. No passes is a problem for any fighter. I mean, just look at Spike, and it's kind of going to play similarly for the opponent. Going to want to just force them to approach you rather than the other way around. But he does have a lot of really high boost values, at least. I'm sure Gary did that on purpose, because he's going to have to do a lot of chasing, and so he doesn't want him to get stranded and have to just do a bunch of double maneuver turns where, he can't do anything but overdraw and discard cards.
Yeah, and he's got 6 cards with Dash and Ebb and Flow that after combat let him move a couple of spaces, which is neat. I really like the Ebb and Flow one. It kind of reminds me of an effect I wanted to include in a deck for the design contest that obviously didn't make it to the finals. But I think that's sort of untapped territory where there's a lot of room for innovation, where you've got these after combat effects that allow you to do things like move, maybe deal damage by moving through a fighter, maybe move and trade places with a fighter. Kind of reminds me of the Bruce Lee Jeet card.
Sure.
So things like that are neat, and they'll add a little bit of maneuverability to a deck that is otherwise pretty lumbering, I would say.
Right. And this Ebb and
See
Flow
how it plays, though.
Yeah, Ebb and Flow is really interesting too because it's got like a series of steps to take, right? Like you move one, then you can swap, then you can move another. So it's a really interesting card. I mean, it's really good in like a pin situation because he doesn't have any sidekicks to protect him from pins that might happen pretty often. And if that happens, you can just attack with Ebb and Flow. You can swap spaces and then hop one back. So you can get out of pins really good. But honestly, as the opponent, you probably don't want to pin him because then that just gives him more opportunities to attack you, and that's not what you want. So it was just an interesting thought with that card, though, that I noticed.
Yeah. The one other card I would call out is Sundering Blow. This seems crazy powerful. So just to summarize, you're discarding a random opponent card because they're blind boosting for you. It's almost always hitting for damage if the effect goes through, because you're either getting a big boost value, hitting for 5 or 6 from your opponent's deck, or you're just getting a small boost value, hitting for 3 or 4. But that's really the sweet spot for triggering his ability anyway and getting the extra 2 damage. So it's going to be really hard to screw that up if you're playing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really know what you do on the opponent side of things. I guess maybe you... It's tough.
It's going to be a brutal card, and the biggest thing is that this is kind of like an ambush, right? It just takes from the deck instead of the hand, but it still takes away one card throughout the course of a game if you're talking about fatigue that they're not going to get to use. So normally you want to feint ambush, but if you feint this thing, you're still taking 2 because his ability bumps it up.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah, it's really going to be a brutal card. I agree. I don't know what you do as the opponent. I guess you want to try to, I don't know, play a 3 into it, but then it's still going to get that blind boost. So, I don't know.
Another one that's tough too is Demon of Western Provinces. I mean, it's early and I don't want to critique anything until we've played it a couple times, but this also seems way too strong, just not in isolation, but given the context of the rest of the cards in his deck. I would probably change it from if the opponent's printed card value is 3 or greater to 4 or greater, because you've got several official fighters already in the lineups that rely on landing a few of those big swings as part of their path to victory. Like, think of Jekyll and Hyde, how tough this is for him. Or even like a Buffy or an Angel. Robin Hood's another good example. So he said in the comments, I was reading a few of them on the Reddit page, this is basically a stand-in for a feint. It's just taking a different approach to it.
Yeah.
And I see that to a degree, but this is really flipping the script on anyone coming over the top with a massive card and just completely canceling it. You can basically think of it as like a better version in almost every sense to Merlin's Bewilderment. And it's more versatile, too. So just a really good card. He's got 3 of them. I'll be interested to see how that one plays.
Yeah, for sure.
You really have to play around that as the opponent.
Oh, definitely. It's like it's almost an impossible to see, right?
Yeah, it's a great call. I was thinking that too.
Yeah, except it's conditional, so it's not always going to trigger. But if the value of their card was a 2 and you're
Yeah, who
defending with this,
cares?
like, yeah, do you really care? Nah, not
No.
really. And then if you're attacking with it, I mean, if they're defending with a 2, like, what 2s even are there other than a feint, which would cancel an impossible to see anyways, right?
You've got
So,
Robin Hood's garbage, draw 2 cards card. That's pretty much it.
well, I mean, a 2-value defense.
Oh, sure. Yeah,
Other than a
attacking with
feint.
it? Yeah.
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
attack with this, you're always going to deal a
Yeah.
damage, pretty much, which is really good because, you can do that with, like, Invisible Man versus Muldoon, for example. You just use an impossible to see on offense, and you cancel out their big 4 defense, and you get the 2 damage through. This thing's similar. It's only a 1, but it's still, like, there's also 3 copies, and impossible to see, there's only 2 copies. So that's going to be a really, really strong card for sure.
Yeah, so he feels pretty tough on paper, but I do think there are a lot of good matchups with a couple different ways you can go about it. I mean, I think I mentioned King Arthur at the top. Like, one way to get around this deck is to just go very aggressive when you do attack it and throw everything at him, right? Because at a certain point, what's his biggest defense? It's a 4. So as long as you're coming over the top of a 4, you don't really have to worry too much because you're dealing damage. So you're not worried about that aspect. And then in terms of the attacks, like, King Arthur's got plenty of health and healing, and this guy's not doing a ton of damage. He's just kind of, death by 1,000 cuts, slowly but surely cutting his way through your health. So I think there's possible potential for someone like a King Arthur, definitely a Beowulf, some of these characters that can really combine certain cards together, whether it's by special abilities or, what's the one with Beowulf where I can't remember the name of it, but you can't block it and you can boost it, and Ancient Heirloom.
Yeah.
So there are cards like that you can come over the top of this and not really have to worry and get a lot of that damage in. And then those characters are also really beneficial because they have so many scheme passes that can move things around, heal, recycle cards. So I'd be interested to see how he shakes up against some of the other sword fighters in the lineups.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's funny that they're both sword fighters, Beowulf and Arthur. But yeah, they kind of do form their own little, almost like archetype, you'd call it, in a card game. But yeah, that's interesting. And I can definitely see King Arthur doing well against this guy. I'm
always looking for opportunities for King Arthur to stand out,
Yeah, that's always fun to find matchups that are in his favor. Another card we didn't really talk about is this Tsubame Gaeshi card. I think this thing is absolutely insane. I mean, it's a 4-value versatile. If you win, you deal damage, additional damage, equal to the difference, right? So if you're attacking and you attack into a skirmish with this or a leap away, you're going to deal 2 because it buffs to a 6, and you're also going to deal 2 more with the effect damage. And that's just insane. I mean, 4 damage over a skirmish or a leap away is crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot when you're talking about 5 versatile cards with a value of 4 each, and they also have great effects. And that one's obviously the better of the 2 different ones I'm referencing, but that's a lot. I mean, you're in Bigfoot territory at that point. So
for real,
there's a lot of damage potential. There's a lot of blocking potential too, depending on the value and how the game's playing out. So yeah, not good. That's for sure where he's hoping to do, like you said, between 2 and 4 damage every time, guaranteed.
Yep. And the cool thing about it too is that with his ability being, buffing defenses doesn't matter, because if you're tying on defense, you're not taking any damage anyways, and you're already considered to be winning the combat for any of those effects. So that's really irrelevant for everything except this, because if they attack you with a 4 and you defend with this, yours is a 6, which, like, that overkill on the defense value translates into the damage, so it's like a counterpunch in that regard.
Yeah, that's a good point. So actually, maybe you don't necessarily always play this to attack. It'll just depend on the situation. But yeah, that's a good way of looking at it, as sort of a stronger counterpunch.
Right.
I like that.
Yeah, but then attacking too, I mean, if they feint it, they take 2. If they skirmish it, they take 4. The best case scenario is they defend with a 3. But I don't know, defending with a 3 is not great against some of the other cards that can get really big, like Sundering Blow and whatnot. So this card is just, I think, insanely powerful. Probably the most, I would say, the strongest card in the deck. So a lot of really powerful cards. I also like how he can go on combo chains with, like, this Momentary Glimpse. because it's going to gain the action and buff your next attack by 2. And then you could play something like Thoughtless Action, which is going to again gain an action because it becomes the same card, but it's a 4. And then it's also going to buff the next attack, and you can make like 2 more attacks, and you can literally do like 4 attacks or more in a turn and get this thing to buff by like, I don't know. Oh, okay, never mind. I just reread it, and it says only your next attack gets plus 2.
Just the next one, yeah. But
Okay,
I mean, your
okay.
point is well made anyway. It's not going to really matter.
Yeah.
Whether it's 2 or 4, you're still getting destroyed if that's true.
Yeah.
It's like a better version of the Raptors.
Right, with They Remember.
You don't even have to worry about positioning.
Yeah, for real. I thought this was stacking, though. I thought it was for the rest of the turn like a nunchaku. So I was worried that you'd be able to stack like a +6 or +8.
Gotcha, yeah.
Which would be ridiculous, but it's still really powerful anyways. So he doesn't have any lack of defense here. He's got tons of combat cards with only the 2 schemes that draw you cards. So I don't think he's going to get caught without defense. So I think, like you said, you're going to just have to play defensively as the opponent and force him to be the aggressor and waste cards boosting and whatnot. It's going to be interesting. But any last thoughts, or are we ready to play?
No, I'm good. Let's do it.
All right, sweet. Do you want to play him first, or do you want to play an official character first?
So how do we do this? Do we pick the same official each way?
No, last time I did it, we picked 2 different fighters just to test it against different things.
Yeah, I'll start with King Arthur.
Okay, cool.
And then you can decide who you want to play as.
All right, sounds good. Okay, ready?
Yep, let's do it.
All right. Obviously, I got to start with a maneuver. I'm going to boost with Daring
there you
Strike.
go. Be bold.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just got to go all in with this guy right off the bat. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, I'm going to attack Merlin.
Let the mind games begin.
There's so much to consider when facing this guy. It's crazy.
Painted that stuff.
Yep, so there
Okay.
we see it on the first combat. So you're going to cancel my effect, so I won't gain the action, but my ability does kick in, and you're going to take 2. All right, you're up.
I'll still take that, though. I kind of had a feeling, and I don't know a better way to deal with it.
Right.
Other than how I did, so...
I mean, what are you going to do?
I'll start with Restless Spirits.
Okay. I'll take 2. 2 out of my precious 13.
Yeah, and then I'll maneuver.
All right, you done there?
Yep.
Okay, going to maneuver. I'm going to attack Merlin.
Man, this is tough.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah, that worked out.
So when I was reviewing this card, I thought, like, this card's always going to draw you 2 cards, because if they defend with a 4, I mean, they still prevented 2 damage from going through, right? And if you defend with this, and they attacked you with a 4, you prevented 2 damage from going through to you. So I assume that's how it works, you know, both ways. So the only real case to draw less than 2 is with a regroup or a 1-value card. So that was pretty good for you. And then Merlin takes 1 damage, and it's your turn.
I'll maneuver. 1, 2, 2. And maneuver again. 1, 2. 1, 2. All right.
I will maneuver. I'll boost with the Stillness of the Mind. So I can go 5. And let's attack Merlin again.
All right.
Awesome. So you're going to take 1.
Not what I thought you'd play.
And you draw. And then I gain an action, and my next card is a +2. I will attack Merlin again. Hope you don't have Bewilderment.
This sucks. I think I have to take it.
Yeah?
Yep.
Awesome, that means no Bewilderment. So, Merlin is going to die, and you got a blind boost. So, what do I get? Excalibur, please. Oh my god!
What are the odds?
Oh, that
1 in
is
20.
so brutal. Yeah, 1 in 20, literally. 5%, dude. Alright, well, it's your turn.
Tough.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I think I'll maneuver. 1, 2. And play Lady of the Lake.
Alright. Okay. So now that I've killed Merlin, though, you don't have any more passes. And I'm currently up in deck, so maybe I am in a position where I can force you to approach. Which is what I want. So I'll maneuver. And I'll maneuver again. And your turn.
Maneuver. I'll boost with the Merlin card. And attack.
I don't really have great options here. Alright, I'm gonna do this. Alright, cool. So I do ignore your value.
I'm actually glad to waste one of those.
Yeah, I'm sure you
Take
are.
that any day of the week. Okay.
Like you said, though, I mean, that was still really powerful. If it was a 4 or greater that you ignored, then you would have just dealt 2 damage to me, which would have been a huge difference.
I mean, this card is insane. The
Yeah.
Demon of the Western Provinces is insane. It should be 4 or greater, because there are so many fighters who, like, rely on cards that are, like, in the 3 range.
Yeah.
Like, Robin Hood and Alice come to mind, because it's printed card value. Keep in mind, it's not, like, the actual value.
Mm-hmm.
So you're really cutting out a large swath of potential cards from a lot of the official characters.
Yeah, this totally blanks a momentous shift, and like nothing does
yeah.
that. Even a feint, you take a damage.
Yeah, it's
So,
brutal.
yeah,
so
that's insane.
that might need some reconsideration, I guess is how I'll put it.
Yeah, yeah.
But okay, where do I want to end up? All right, I'm good there.
Okay, I'm gonna maneuver. Let's go 1, 2, and I'll maneuver again. All right, your turn.
All right, maneuver and maneuver again. And I will boost with a regroup.
I'll maneuver. Now, oh man, I could just double maneuver and we're at even deck counts and make you try to approach me, but it's not going to work at this point because you have so much more health than I do. So, yeah, I was thinking I could make you approach me, but I don't think that's the case, at least not until I can get the health lead.
I think it would take you longer to figure that out. When you were talking earlier on, I was like, I am very good with this. You did not use a healing card. I think even if you did, it actually sets you back rather than catches you up.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm in good spot.
Yeah, you are. I'm glad I realized now instead of sitting there overdrawing and passing until I realized it was too late.
That's the key. I'm usually pretty bad at that. It'll take me like 2 more turns from now to figure out the game state.
Yeah.
Dictate something, and by then it's like, shoot.
Right.
I would have done those last 2 turns different.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a huge thing that a lot of, I'll say less competitive players don't really pay much attention to is like the overall game state like that, you know?
Yep.
So I got a boost. Man. I don't even have good options.
Glad to hear it.
I'm going to have to ditch this other Stillness of the Mind. I mean, I have to move 5. So that was a really good regroup boost because I would have had some more options otherwise.
Honestly, I don't even think you want to play that card in this sort of game. Because you're healing 2, but you're losing 2 cards, or you're gaining 2 cards, which you don't need right now.
True. Yeah, we're both at full hands. Yeah.
What would that do? It just accelerates your exhaustion death.
Right. Yeah.
I was actually kind of hoping you would play one or both of those, because to me it just makes my strategy that much more clear. But
yeah.
Now it's fuzzy. That's
All right,
fine.
so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the better spot to end. And attack.
All right. Done with this.
Oh man, that was so good for me.
Yep, that was tough.
Wow. Okay, yeah, because my ability will bump it up to a 5. And then I get to move 1 space, and it's your move.
Okay. Yeah, not great.
So that's where those mind games come in, because if I was playing like a 4, you would have walked away with only 1 damage taken, which is better.
Yep. Maneuver. And I will attack. And I'm going to boost it.
Oh no. I'm not going to like this.
Well, actually, I think you might be okay.
Alright. Yeah, not too bad. I mean, I still take 3, though.
Yeah, but it could have been infinitely worse, as
Oh,
you
yeah.
know. I thought you
Yeah.
had another one of the demons. I figured you were safeguarding.
Oh.
I mean, you clearly haven't drawn them yet, but I figured that was the time to play it if you had it,
Dude,
so I
yeah,
guessed wrong.
that was a really smart play, though, because the feint being a 2 value, it wouldn't get blanked, and then you're up to a 5, dealing 4 over that defense. Very smart play. Too bad it didn't work out quite the way you wanted.
Yeah, it's smart until it doesn't work.
Yeah, right. I'm going to maneuver, actually. Maneuver one more time. Yeah, your turn.
I'll maneuver, and maneuver again.
I knew I should have ended next to you. Alright, I'll maneuver. I'll maneuver again. And I'm going to actually move there. I'm going to discard a Momentous Shift. I don't think this card is very good in this deck. I mean, sure, you might deal like a damage, but I think you can do better.
Yeah, I mean, it's a finishing blow, right? Like against a character you know doesn't have a defense for a 5.
Right.
No feints left. It's like, or to eliminate a sidekick.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with you. It's not the strongest. Okay, maneuver 1, 2. I will boost that. 1, 2. And then I'll maneuver again. And I have to discard. I will throw away another Merlin card.
Alright, I'll maneuver. Yeah, I'm glad I killed off Merlin early and before you had one of the bewilderments. But you did pull off your auto damage scheme, so that was good.
I feel like that's the card in King Arthur's deck that they needed 2 of. Like, instead of this card, Aid the Chosen One, just give him 2 of those auto damages, maybe make it slightly less powerful. Because there are so many times Merlin dies because I don't draw Bewilderment or I don't draw that card fast enough. And it's just infuriating. Because King Arthur always feels like he's 2 or 3 damage away.
You went to the perfect spot, of course. I expected you to attack me. Why am I thinking that you're going to be the aggressor here? That's
Told you what I'm doing! We've been over this, John.
I know. I thought I was going to get you to come after me because you wouldn't want to overdraw 2 cards, which you did.
It doesn't matter. Time is health to me in this game.
Yeah. Now you're playing smart. So
I'll never forget the game we played where I was Spike and you were the Raptors and you just sat on a space for like 20 turns. After that, anything is possible playing you, I realized. So
Yeah, that's true.
It's only fair. There's no level too deep for you to to sink in pursuit of victory. Yeah. I'm just kidding, of course.
Oh, I know. So now the question is, what do I do? I maneuvered, so we go 1, 2.
I mean, I think you throw away anything that results in you drawing cards, because that just accelerates your death. So unless there's a card you absolutely need that draws you cards, those would be the ones I'm tossing, because you know I've played how many feints? At least 2, I think. Yeah, 2. So, like, you're getting all those effects, like it or not, probably not. I'm just talking out loud as to what I would do, but...
Well, I mean, you're right, though. I'm going to get rid of a Daring Strike, because I definitely don't want to either draw or take damage. Alright, we're going to ditch a dash. And it's your turn.
Okay, maneuver. Boost.
You're still not coming at me.
Maneuver again. And I will ditch... A Momentous shift. I just don't really see it working.
All right. So I'm gonna maneuver.
I mean, this is this deck's fatal flaw. I don't think it's gonna matter against. Well, it's interesting because if you've got 3 maneuver, you can just kite this guy to death. Like Muldoon, field day. But if you're a 2-move character, like I think he crushes. Let me pull up my list. Like I think this guy crushes, for example, like Buffy set in general. Jekyll and Hyde would be really tough. I think Raptors is a terrible matchup for the Raptors. And I think Robin Hood's tough because he's got a lot of low values and not a lot of health, no heal. And like you said, you can throw away those crappy Momentous shifts that don't help you in any other way against things like Outlaws.
Right.
So I think Robin Hood is maybe the one example of a rangy character with a lot of maneuverability. I mean, the one tough thing is you got to cut through a bunch of different Outlaws and he can just put up a barrier. Yeah. But maybe that's one where he can find a way. Like that one card where you can Ebb and Flow. I mean, that could be really nice to sneak through a barricade if you're fighting Robin. But sure. I think in general, this guy's getting kited to death in a lot of matchups.
That's how it appears. Okay, so I maneuvered. I have to boost. I gotta go do something. I hate to do this, but I'm gonna pitch a Sundering blow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm gonna attack.
Alright, defend this.
Yes. Alright, so I'll bump over yours and deal 2. And then you don't win, so your effect is negated, but mine will get to go. So, I'm gonna go...
Oh, never mind, you're running away. Okay.
Yeah. Me going up there is gonna make it so much harder to reach you, I feel like, because then I only have one path. I have to chase the same path you took, rather than now I have multiple routes that could potentially help me out. So, I'll pass it over to you.
Maneuver. I will attack and boost it.
Alright, this is really potentially risky. Oh, man. That is so bad. Oh.
Brutal.
Yeah, because I don't even get to boost it now.
Alright, so you take 4.
I take 4. Oh, my God. That was not what I wanted. Another good play, though, with that feint. Man, I should be thinking about that.
Yeah, I think that's game pretty much. We'll play it out, but...
Yeah, that
you really needed
hurt.
to throw down a big-time defense and hope that I didn't play Excalibur, which I was hoping you would think I did.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even really know if you had a path anyway. If I had just run, I would be curious to know if it would have really mattered.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll see.
Well, that's
you got
all your
one
feints.
last gas in you?
That's all your feints, and I can still cancel your Excalibur, so we'll see.
That's true.
I'm gonna maneuver.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna maneuver again. And boost. With a Daring Strike. Alright, your turn.
Okay, maneuver. Again. Alright, I'll stay there.
Okay, I'll maneuver. And maneuver again. Alright, your turn. And I have to discard, get rid of Momentous Shift.
Okay. Maneuver. Maneuver again. Yep. Throw away a Merlin. And Momentous Shift.
I really wish you didn't have so many worthless Merlin cards to throw away. So I'll maneuver.
Make my decisions harder for sure.
Yeah, right.
Here's how I think you fix this deck. For Stillness of Mind, and again, this is probably totally out of theme, but instead of draw 2 cards, let him move up to 2 spaces.
Yeah, I like that
you've been
a lot.
You've been 2 spaces away a number of times. Like after a boost, you know, it lets you essentially get in a massive hit or a combo, whatever you want it to be. Like, and then the other nice thing about that is then Stillness of Mind is potentially in your discard for that attack card. So you can chain it, Thoughtless action.
Oh, yeah, and that's like a getaway card.
Yeah. So I think that would be neat.
That's a good one. I like that.
So that might be my takeaway recommendation. I'll try and remember that.
Okay, I'm going to boost with a Thoughtless action, and I'll attack.
And with this... Perfect.
Defense, yeah.
Alright, so I take 1.
Yep, yours goes first.
I get to go first. I will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I'm assuming that I can move 1 and then choose not to swap and then move again.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so I'll move 1 and then I will move...
Yep.
2, and you're up.
Great. Okay. Maneuver again. We'll throw away at Prophecy, and that's my turn.
I'll maneuver. I'll discard a Sundering Blow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll attack.
Pretty confident this is Thoughtless action, but let's see.
But you know the last card in your deck, or you can find out, so you know what value the Sundering Blow would be.
Alright.
Okay, what do you got?
Oh, well, it's not that anyway. Okay,
that's
interesting.
Not what I want.
I will go 1, 2.
I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3. Your turn.
Okay.
We're in a really interesting spot.
Maneuver. Yeah, for real. I'm not sure if you're just playing it out or you actually think this is doable. I don't know myself. There's really nowhere I can go where I'm always 6 away from you.
Right.
That's my understanding. Let's see if that's true.
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's not. I think I'm just going to stay where I am. So I take 2 damage, right?
Yeah.
Alright, you're up.
Well, I'm gonna maneuver.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna boost with the Thoughtless action. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'll attack.
1 second here.
This is a make or break moment.
I mean, I'm super confident you're not attacking me with a demon, so... But the problem is, if you're gonna boost the clash, then I don't really know what you end up with, so it doesn't really matter. Okay. So you'll just decide based on what I put down.
Ah!
Okay, yeah, I mean, that makes sense, I think. Alright, so I take 2.
Yeah, 1 from the combat, 1 from the effect. And you get to move if you want to. And then it's your turn.
Okay. I will not move. I will attack you. Let me see if I'm going to boost it or not. I think I might, but let's see here. Alright, yeah. I'll boost with this.
I'm calling out that this is a noble sack attacking and boosting with Aid of Morgana. A lot of mind games right here, and this determines the game, but gonna go with this. Okay. So, that was smart. I knew you were attacking with Noble Sack. I didn't expect you to use Excalibur to boost. But you're at what? You're at a 5. So, I pitch Tsubame. I gotta match your 5.
Okay, so it's a wash.
Well, do you want to use your effect?
No.
If not, then you're gonna have to discard from my clash.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Wait, hold up. If you won the combat... Oh, because you matched me exact... Oh, I see what you're saying.
Well, I don't have to match it. It's not about matching exact. It's just because I'm a...
If you won the combat. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
So
no, I miscalculated. Yes, I definitely want to boost it then.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Sorry, I misunderstood.
Because now
okay,
the
let's
boost
see here.
translates to damage instead of just...
Yeah, I'm throwing down Aid of Morgana.
Yeah, I figured. Okay, so I take 2.
Yeah, so you take 2.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll attack with this.
Yeah, okay. I gotta use demon. Yep.
Alright, so I will go 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay. I'm gonna maneuver.
That worked out pretty much perfectly for me. You got a little unlucky.
Yeah, there's nothing I can do now, because if I maneuver again, I'm
Yep.
dead. So I have to boost. I'm forced to. And you're at too high of a health total for me to be a real threat. And I have to attack. So I'll attack. Grail. Yeah. So you take 3. And then I get to move 1. And swap. And move another. And it's your turn.
Okay, and then I maneuver twice.
Oh, you can come hit me. Come on.
No, I'm good.
Just in the spirit of the strategy, huh?
Yeah, well, you made it close. I mean,
Yeah.
in fairness, I think if I had been a little more aggressive, I think it would have created risk, but also probably could have ended the game a lot sooner because I had multiple 2 cards that I could have played to boost, but I think that just plays into your hand. So I think that is the strategy with King Arthur. Like, it's super ugly, and I think Beowulf would be the same. The difference with Beowulf, obviously, is you can do a little more direct damage, and you can do a little bit more of rebounding with the Grendel, and then the last thing would be the uncancelable. Well, not that it matters, because he doesn't cancel anything.
Right. But Beowulf also has a lot more passes than Arthur, because Arthur's passes rely on Merlin, and since I killed him early, you didn't have any.
That made it tough.
Yeah. That was my plan, because I knew you were going to obviously run away and make me be the aggressor, so I really didn't want you to have a ranged fighter that you could keep poking me with, as well as a bunch of schemes that you can use to pass. So I just wanted to take him out as early as possible, and I did manage to do that, but then, I mean, the whole rest of the game, you just have so much health I got to get through, and although I had advantage pretty much every combat, I mean, I didn't have enough time.
Yep.
But let's flip it around and we'll try another matchup. Okay, let's see what I get. Alright, I'm gonna maneuver. And I'll maneuver again. Alright, your turn.
Okay. Maneuver. 1, 2. Maneuver again.
Good there?
Yep.
Smart. Going where I can't pure evil you. So I'll maneuver. And then I'll maneuver again. Right here. And I'll discard Scientific Method. And this is a weird one, but I think I'm going to get rid of a Skirmish.
Okay.
And your turn.
Maneuver. 1, 2. Maneuver again.
Still not approaching, huh?
And I'll throw away a Daring Strike.
Yeah, go figure.
Yeah, and let's see what else. Exposed Flaws.
Yep, both the card draw cards. But, you know, you're doing my job for me. Just staying away. So, I'm gonna maneuver.
Well, I think the difference in this game is, over the course of the game, your potential to completely destroy me builds. So the more Jekyll cards I see in the discard from discarding, the safer I feel that if I whiff on a Demon of the Western Provinces, against Forever Hide, that it's not going to be game over, right?
Yeah, good point.
So I want to see, like, first, 5 turns or so, a bunch of Jekyll cards in the discard, and then I can start to feel a little better about not seeing, like, 10 damage come out that just immediately ends the game, essentially.
Yeah, good point.
So that's my thought process, but it's a tough one.
All right, well, I maneuvered
It's tough
there.
when you go first because you really have such a leg up from the jump on hand size. I have no idea what you're holding, but if you have a Forever Hide, it's not going to be good, so...
Right. So I'm going to maneuver again.
That's how I'm looking at it.
I'll go there, and I'll discard Distracted Triage, because I really don't think I'm going to pull that off this game. And because even if I tie with a 3, which is normally how you win it, I won't win because your ability will buff it. So that card's hopeless. And I'll discard a Recoiling Blow. And it's your turn.
Okay. Maneuver. I'll boost it with a dash.
Oh, nice.
And go like this. The card art on the back of these cards is fantastic, by the way.
Yep.
And honestly, the art, just in general, I mean, it's very abstract, but I really enjoy it. It's very cool.
Yeah, me too. Originally, he didn't have art on these, and I was like, oh, dude, you got to get some art on here because it's so much easier to recognize cards, when you have the art, even if it's
Totally.
nothing crazy, just something. And yeah, I don't know how he did these, but they were very cool.
Yeah, it's dope.
Yeah. Okay, what are you doing to me here? I don't want to use a 4. 4s seem bad against him. I guess I gotta try. Oh, thank goodness. So,
All right.
I can move up to 4, and you can move up to 3, huh?
After you.
I'm really glad I get to go first, because I'm able to go here, and then you get to move. Good there?
Yep.
Sweet. Now I get to go hide, and Pure Evil. So I'll hit you for 2. And then I'll pull a Strange Case, and we'll see what I get off the top. That's going to be 2 more. And you're up.
I will play the much hated Stillness. Draw 2 cards.
Yeah, it's pretty good here, though.
Yeah.
You just negated my Strange Case. Or Pure Evil, however you want to look at it.
Yep. This is tough. Alright, I will attack.
Okay. I'll defend with Duality. Perfect.
Rats.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Because you
Okay.
don't want to end next to me, so that's what I was thinking. So I'll take 1.
Okay. I guess I will go 1, 2.
Okay. My turn?
Yep.
Alright, gonna go Jekyll, of course. And maneuver.
Range is with haste. That's what I'm missing here.
I'll go 1, 2, and I'll maneuver again. And I'll go 3, 4, and it's your turn.
Maneuver. Boost it. And maneuver again. Okay.
I will maneuver. And I'll do a Calming Research Scheme, and I will draw 0 and heal 2. Well, I only get to heal 1, but your turn.
Maneuver. Boost it with a Daring Strike. And attack.
I'll defend. Oh, dang.
Okay.
So I take 2. And I get to move first, then you get to move 1, swap, and move 1. Yeah.
Okay.
My turn?
Yep.
I'll go hide. And do a Pure Evil. And I will attack. Ah, man. Of course. So,
Okay.
you ignore my value, but I do get to warp and change. So, I'm going to go here, and it's your turn.
Alright. Maneuver. And maneuver again. Alright.
Okay, I'll maneuver. 1, 2, and maneuver again. And your turn.
Maneuver. Boost with Clash.
Wait. Clash doesn't get you there.
Oh, you're right. Okay.
You're here, right? Take the
1,
Clash back.
2, 3, 4, 5.
Just take the Clash back.
Alright.
For the sake of the playtest. See, that's the problem, though. I ran into the same problem. Like, I didn't want to discard my really powerful cards and leave all the crappy stuff in my hand, but I kind of had to because the crappy stuff doesn't have high enough boost values.
I guess I'll discard this.
Yeah, that hurts.
And I know. And then I'll attack.
I'm going to go for the Hail Mary and hope it's a 2. Oh, it is not a 2, but that's okay. So it becomes Tsubame, and I take 1, and then I take 1 from the effect. I was hoping you were going to play that, the card that lets you do another action. And then I was going to pull off the heal.
So I guess one thing to his strategy is you have to get more comfortable discarding great cards. And then playing Thoughtless action to use them. Mm-hmm. So, like, you need to get comfortable discarding to boost, and then Thoughtless actioning to essentially get the effect, which is just an awkward sequence, but I guess if people are going to run around you, which you should, because that's the way to win, you kind of have to do that.
Right. If they didn't have to just run away, like, if the opponent was more inclined to go at you and attack, it would be really nice to defend with Tsubame, potentially deal damage, and then once it gets around to you, since they had to maneuver and attack and end next to you, now you attack them with Thoughtless action, so you get, like, you double up on the Tsubames. But I mean, that's just not really the case when you have to be the one pursuing the opponent as Kojiro, you know. So it's my turn. I'll maneuver. And maneuver again. And your turn.
I'll maneuver. I will boost with Clash this time.
Now it works.
And that's it.
Okay. I'm going to hope it's not your action gain card. Okay. So mine's a 6. And let's see what you get. Only a skirmish. Okay. So yours is a 3, so no damage.
Yeah, I really needed to hit a good card there. Not even so much for the damage. Once I see the duality come out, it's more just to get it out of the way. So that's not good.
I'm gonna go hide. I'm gonna attack.
Alright, defend it.
Ooh, it's not demon. Alright, so what am I dealing right now?
Surprised you played that with only 4 cards in hand. Interesting. How many do you even have? I can't imagine it's more than 1, maybe 2.
I mean, I'm dealing... That would be 4. 6. I'm just going all in. We're going to deal 8.
I can't believe you had 3 of them. I was so sure that you were going to wait. I figured you had a Forever Hide, but I was so sure you were going to, like, just hit me with a scheme and then bail. Or just bail twice and load up.
So I purposely
had a
defended with
demon.
this. Oh, that hurts.
So,
yeah, I defended
yeah,
with this
but I mean, you have to
because
pick it, though, because if I play it wrong, I'm screwed. So it's
exactly
really tough.
Yeah, because if I just attacked you with something else,
I
guess there's not many other options right now, but if it was like
well,
a
I played the
skirmish
other
or
one.
something-
The other one was okay because I knew you were out of what do you call it? The other 5. Those are the ones I want to play that on.
Yeah.
That's pretty much game.
Pretty much, but...
I'll play it out.
Alright. And, I'm gonna maneuver then, and I take a damage. Now, the thing is, you are ahead in deck count. Just not in life, but...
The problem is, I mean, you've got all your schemes, so...
Yeah, exactly. So...
You just boost next to me or boost to an adjacent space, or...
You're gonna have to aggro me down, I think, somehow. But, it's your turn.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know how you come back from that.
Yeah, you don't.
Probably not.
Maneuver... and attack.
Defend. Blind boost, okay. Oof.
That'll work.
So yours is a 5 to my 4.
Only 1, yeah.
So I
but
take 1. And
glad to see that gone.
And it's my turn?
Yep.
Alright, well, I'm going hide, and sad to say I have the strange case.
Oh, you've got to be kidding me.
So that's it. What'd you have?
Yeah, so I had 2.
Oh man, 2 demons.
I just didn't think you'd play it. I mean, it was, first of all, it's early-ish. I mean...
Well, not looking at the deck count, it's not.
Well, I mean, I thought based on the number of cards, you had 4 cards in hand, right? So I'm thinking like, okay,
Right.
I've seen a lot of Jekyll cards come out. Yeah, I mean, obviously, I regret it, but like, I'm thinking you're probably not attacking me there. You're probably running me down a little more on card count and then hitting it.
Mm-hmm.
But
So
yeah, I guess wrong.
the only thing though was that the only other card that I could have used is this card or a skirmish. I only had 1. Actually, yeah, I had 1 skirmish left. And then I had both of these cards. So that was the only other option. I guess you were banking on that, right? That's 3 copies of a card versus 2 copies of Forever Hide.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I probably put a little too much stock in how many cards you had, but I was just doing math and I'm thinking, all right, I don't think, like, I can survive 2 damage.
Right.
Or rather 2 on top of the 5, so it would be 4 total. So I was thinking, like, at worst, it's probably 4.
Right, and you'd have been fine with that.
Yeah, so if I'm right about you only having 1 or 2 Jekyll cards to discard, I'm basically, if I guess wrong, I'm only costing myself 2 health. You see what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
obviously, I 1 guessed wrong, and 2, it was way worse than that.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So that's what I screwed up. But I think that play could make sense because I know if I survive the first hide with you on lower cards, then I can definitely survive a knockout blow down the road, and I'm obviously going to keep putting pressure on you, so hopefully your cards don't get too high. But that's what I was thinking, but that was obviously not right. So I think there is a really tough path to victory for him. I totally overlooked all the Jekyll maneuverability from Pure Evil.
Yeah.
Which makes it so good because you're essentially doing 9 damage or 6, and then let's assume you get like 1s and 2s from the other one. You're probably getting like
9,
8 to 10 damage off with that.
Right. Exactly.
So, I mean, that's the game. Like, I have to basically get really lucky and discard 1 or 2 of those schemes. I didn't get any of them, and then I also need to be super effective with chaining stuff, maybe doing some healing. I tried to do 1 heal, and then I started my hand with 2 dashes and a Momentous. Like, I had all the worst cards you would want. I did get a Demon Pseudo early, and then I was just struggling on when to play it because I didn't want to throw them away on nothing. And then the first one was okay because it was the other 5 attack, but It's just tough because you made me chase, and like you really do just have to kind of play Angel style, where you go ham from the go
Mm-hmm.
and just kind of hope for the best. I don't know that I love that style of play.
Yeah.
Because I feel like the deck should be actually more strategic than that.
Right.
Like it feels like he's a very sophisticated swordsman, and people are like running at him, and all their lackeys are running at him, and he's just parrying blows and cutting them down, and like it's nothing. It's like how I assume a Yoda would have been in ancient Asia, or I guess not even that ancient. It's like 15th or 14th century,
Yeah.
16th century.
No,
I
I
don't
get
remember.
you. I agree.
So that feels a little off, but yeah, I mean that was a domination for sure. I think the key is definitely direct damage,
Oh, for
both
sure.
in terms of like passing and making sure you stay up on cards in the deck, but then also just being able to not really have to engage and deal with his all his versatiles.
Yeah, he really is like overpowered in terms of just combat, but there's so much more to this game than just combat. So yeah, he really could benefit from like a change like you mentioned with the scheme so that it actually becomes a pass and helps him either just play a more defensive game of keep away and make them approach you, or you can still be aggressive because you can move the two and gain the action if you really want to go try and combo off, you know?
I would just change that one thing for now and kind of see how it plays.
Mm-hmm.
I take back the comment about the Demon of Western changing it to a 4 or greater, because I thought he was going to be more competitive against Hyde, and he got worked. And I think, I mean, you drew all your schemes. You got Forever Hyde, and I guessed wrong, but it's
it would have been a different game if you used Demon on Hyde there, because I mean, you were at 9, right? So
yeah, you did 8.
Yeah, if I didn't deal 8 damage right there, it would have been way different because I only had the strange case left for schemes, because you did end up getting rid of the pure evil off the top from the blind boost.
It reminds me of Spike. This deck reminds me a lot. Like, I feel the same frustration with this deck that I feel with Spike, where if you give it, and ironically, it's the same fix, basically. It's like, change some schemes to, instead of drawing cards, gaining an action, and voila. Or not gaining an action in this case, moving a space, but you do gain an action too, potentially. And then boom, it's a totally different deck. Now I'm scared to play this dude. Because he can get to me and then wail on me with some of his powerful stuff.
Right. And granted, like, that's only 2 cards in the deck, right? If you change the schemes, I don't think that's quite enough, because 2 passes is not great. I mean, that's still like the lowest you can get unless you're Robin Hood and don't have any. Also, you could use like something like a Bring It On would help this deck a little bit.
Bring It On. Yeah, like I like
Bruce's
that.
Bring It On.
Yes, yeah, get someone to you. Hell yeah, I like that a lot, actually.
And they
I don't know if he's
like similar fighters.
a hubris kind of guy like Bruce. Bruce is more of a showman, but
oh yeah,
who cares? True. Just add it in anyway. Yeah, I like that. Just like one Bring It On, and then replace the Daring Strikes, and maybe add one more of the healing schemes. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I agree. I wouldn't add any defense. I would just replace Daring Strikes with better offense and schemes, and then see how it goes. Yeah. I don't have too many complaints other than that.
Right. I mean, overall, like, I really like the idea.
There's a lot of good ideas.
Yeah. I love the idea, and I love, like, the direction it's going in. It's just the fact that it has spike syndrome.
It's too easily countered by one very simple strategy that's not fun.
Exactly. It's spike syndrome all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the direction the deck is going in. It's really strategic in terms of picking what cards you're going to play, and like you said, it's really mathy. It's just got that spike problem. So as long as you fix that, I think it's going to be an awesome deck, you know, when it's refined.
Totally.
So, all right.
Good job, Gary.
Yeah, Gary, it's a sweet deck. It just got a couple of weaknesses that you got to fix, and once you do that, you'll be gold, and it's going to be awesome. Despite that, I still had fun playing it, because trying to line up the cards is a really fun mechanic.
Yeah, definitely.
So let me see if we can get Gary in here. Hey, what's up, Gary?
Not much. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks for joining us on the stream here. So I don't know if you caught any of it. ultimately, I think both of us love the idea. It's a great, like the ability is super fun. It's super fun trying to pick your cards for the combats and make that line up in your favor so that your ability pulls off. The one big issue that we noticed is he's got like spike syndrome, where
Yeah.
he doesn't have any passes and he draws like a fiend, and the opponent doesn't really have any incentive to go approach you. They want to just back off and make you as Kojiro approach them, and it's kind of hard to keep up with being a single fighter, you know, and having no passes to deal enough damage to close out the game. We did Arthur first, and Arthur just had too much health, and then we did against Jekyll and Hyde, and that one ended kind of abruptly, so that was kind of a fluke because I did 8 damage with a Forever Hyde, which was, it was cool, but yeah, that one we expected to go longer, and that got cut short. So he ended up losing both times, although the King Arthur one was very close, and I think the Jekyll one would have been very close if it wasn't ended like that. So overall, really fun, but yeah, I think the spike syndrome was the biggest problem that we noticed.
Yeah. I ran into the same thing because I had tested him against Allison Bruce a couple nights ago,
Okay.
and he is 0-5 against Bruce. He can't kill Bruce Lee.
Holy cow.
Yeah. It's exactly the reason you described. There's nothing that incentivizes Bruce to not back off and just refill his hand, and Kojiro doesn't really have a way to deal with that right now. How much health did Arthur have at the end of your match?
Dose.
Okay.
Yeah, so it was close. I will say, John, as convincingly as you crushed me with Jekyll, I felt pretty good the entire match. Especially having Holy Grail in hand. If you had been able to discard something that was more significant with one of the blind boosts for me, then it might have made the difference. But that one felt comfortable, but a little dicey at the end, and then the Jekyll one was a slaughter. We did have one thought, Gary, for a fairly straightforward edit. Did you ever think of changing Stillness of Mind to have it, instead of getting 2 cards, just to move up to 2 spaces? Like, John and I think if you just made that simple change, it might totally change the tenor, and it's very similar to what people have called for with Spike and some of his Seek the Shadows cards. Just something basic like that. We've got other ideas too, but any thoughts on giving him a little more like that?
Yeah, so I cut back the complexity on Stillness of Mind. The very first version of it was draw 3 cards, then put up to 3 cards from your hand on top of your deck, move 2 spaces. And it didn't have anything else. One thing that we might be able to try with it is drop the card draw off of it, because he does have...
For sure.
Yeah, he has the draw on Daring Strike already, and he's going to be doing a lot of maneuvering, just like de facto. We could do a choose 2, recover 2 health, gain 1 action, move 2 spaces.
Yeah, I like that a lot, because then it's even more versatile.
Well.
You can use it to fit the situation. If you want to be aggressive, you can move and gain the action. If you want to be passive, you can move and heal.
Yeah, we'll give that one a try. What were the other notes that you had for it?
So John and I both found that Daring Strike was doing a lot more harm than good more often than not. You know, you can recover health with Stillness, which is great, but at the end of the day, we were playing a lot of the, like we said, against the Spike Syndrome. And so you honestly don't even want to use that card sometimes, and then when you add on Daring Strike, you're drawing cards down, you're potentially hurting yourself. It's only 3 value. I think we saw in the discussion, or at least I did, that you started that a lot higher and then brought it down based on some feedback. So that was probably one that John and I were thinking you might even want to just take it out entirely, because, or maybe rework the attack, we should say.
Overall, if you're not playing Daring Strike, how often was his hand capacity an issue? Because without Daring Strike and Stillness, he has no card draw.
So we ran into a lot of situations where we were double maneuvering. Even if you had to overdraw, right? Like, that was the optimal play. As boring as it is, like, if you want to play optimally, you wanted to just double maneuver out of his, like, range, you know, make him have to boost to get to you. And you can overdraw, because if he chooses to sit back and overdraw as well, you still have advantage in the long run, because he has a low health total and no passes.
Right.
So, yeah, we played a...
Exposed Flaws is giving you 2 cards most of the time, too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that one because that's a
I
big card
forgot.
draw.
Yeah, exposed flaws just got added, I think, this morning. I forgot about that one. Yeah, with that in play, then we can cut Daring Strike. Yeah.
John, I also liked your idea of throwing in a Bring It On.
Oh,
think
I
that
did
could be a
mention
nice
that. Yeah,
inclusion.
like Bruce. I think that could help potentially because then they have to pay more attention to zonage, and that means it's not as easy for them to just run away to a spot where you can't bring it on as your first action, and then, now you get 2 attacks on them when normally you would not have.
Yeah, he's chasing constantly. We probably have PTSD from that too, but it would be nice to flip the tables once in a blue moon at least.
You'd get to see the fun in the deck more often if there wasn't so much chasing and there was more of a incentive for the opponent to come at you, so there was more engagements. Because that's the fun of the deck, is the combats, the engagement, picking the right card and pulling off that ability. So
the Thoughtless action, Momentary Glance sort of combo is great. So those cards are awesome. Tsubame is really cool. I liked Ebb and Flow. I was telling John, not enough cards have after combat movement / player-to-player interactions like that, so that's definitely an untapped concept that could be seen more, which I was happy to see here.
Cool.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff.
How often did the character ability come up, and how much of an issue was it that it's a 2 swing instead of a 1 swing?
2 is definitely the right amount.
Yep.
I would say it was probably a feature in 1 out of every 2 or 3 combats. So, I don't mean that it triggered every 2 or 3, but we were very, very cognizant of it, and we were playing mind games with each other. So I think that was perfect. I wouldn't change anything on that front.
Awesome.
And I'll add that it's not even just the ability triggering, but just the threat of the ability that changes the gameplay and makes it fun for both players, because you really have to choose and you got to go through these different scenarios in your head when you're thinking about which card you want to play. So even if it doesn't trigger, I still love the ability because of the mind game.
Yeah, Demon makes it super fun to play random cards as attacks to kind of get around it. We did a lot of that with the King Arthur matchup where I was playing Noble Sacrifices and Feints as attacks and then boosting with Excalibur or something else. I forget what the other one was, John, but that's cool because it brings out weird combos and interactions like that as a way to get through that card.
Yeah, that was awesome.
It's like the regroup fake out done a different way.
Yeah,
which is fun.
Did Demon feel good as a 1 value card? Because originally it was a 2 value, but my concern with it then was that it beats every single card. It has no counterplay, because if you feint it, you take 2 damage.
Yeah, I think it's right there. I think it's right at 1, and I would even consider changing the text on the effect potentially to 4 or greater.
Okay.
Because you're really canceling a ton of card options across the official fighter list. So that might be something I would focus on the action gain or the movement gain on the schemes and some of those other things we mentioned first, but that would be another change I might suggest at least looking at. Because it did feel borderline unstoppable. When you throw that card out, you have guaranteed yourself just about that you're taking no damage. If you take damage, it's 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so I don't know that that's wrong necessarily in the context of the deck overall, but as an individual card, it feels insanely good.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, as an individual card, but even by the end of the stream, you said, "Oh, I don't know about changing it, to a 4 or greater because it's not oppressively good." Because
I would need to see it with the other effects first. Taken.
Right.
Yeah.
And when you're using it as defense, as good as it is to just completely blank your opponent's card, it's still 1 card for 1 card, and you only have 3 of them. So, once you run out, that's it. But I definitely agree with the 1 value, because as a 2, it would be way too good. Because like you said, Gary, as an attack, you're always going to deal 2 damage, no matter what, unless they defend with a regroup, and then you only deal 1. But that's just way too good, because you blank every high defense card in the game. You even deal the 2 over the feint, and that's crazy. So a 1 is very fitting. So,
but I do think there are plenty of cards that are a base of 3 value that don't change through effects. Alice has a bunch. King Arthur has a bunch. Muldoon has some. Those are the cards that I feel like it's sort of intended to let. It's an inverse feint, right? The strategy for big characters is to hit big over the feint, deal 3 or 4 damage, larger than life. Those types of cards. This is the inverse. You want to sort of death by 1,000 cuts him. So I think you want to be encouraging people to play 2s and 3s there.
Yeah, devil's advocate though, I would argue against changing it to 4 or greater because I think being able to deal 2 damage over that thing is really, really punishing. You know, if you attack with a Swift Strike into the demon and the demon doesn't trigger and you take 2 damage and you didn't cancel their Swift Strike effect like a Feint would, that just feels really bad. I think, to me at least, that's too punishing.
Interesting thing with adding Bring It On, that is a scheme that will play nice with Thoughtless action.
That's true.
Yeah.
Because you get to gain the action with your Bring It On, and you get to pull them to you even... Well, I'm trying to think of a scenario where bringing them to you would matter. Would that matter at all? I don't think that would ever do anything.
Well, if you're attacking a sidekick, it would.
Yeah.
How so?
You're in the middle of Marmorail. You've got sidekicks and the hero opposing you.
Oh, you get to hit the sidekick and bring the hero to you.
You nail a sidekick, they're like, whatever, I'll let it through. No biggie. Boom, bring it on. He's right next to you. Wallop him with something else.
That's true. Yeah.
I think that could be neat.
That would be awesome.
But yeah, it doesn't matter against Jekyll.
Right. But yeah, that's a really cool interaction.
Yeah. Yeah, little stuff like that is cool.
Mm-hmm.
Did Clash get played, and how did it feel? Because that is his regroup.
Okay. It did get played. One time near the end of our Arthur game, I defended with Clash against his... He used Noble Sacrifice to boost with Excalibur, and I defended with Clash, and I discarded Tsubame. So they were 5-5, but then he used his Noble Sac effect to boost over that up to a 7. So that was a crazy chain there. It was super cool. That was, I think, the only time it was used. It felt good to be able to bump up your defense greater than 4. You know, you can get a 5 value defense, which is what I needed in that case to guarantee that I was going to stay alive.
Right.
Yeah. I like
it. Kind of reminds me of the War King. So that's kind of how I was viewing it. I didn't really get a chance to use it that well, but I was kind of viewing it as less of a regroup and more as a War King, because you throw it out, you're not really sure what the vibe is. You're obviously not going for any particular number. You just hopefully have a different array of boost values in your hand that can get you to the right spot to be in, particularly as a defender. But John could have used it offensively at the end of our King Arthur game, and I was always cognizant of it because Kojiro has a lot of big boost values. Kojiro, yeah. Kojiro.
So the only problem, though, with using it as an attack, which that's normally what you want to be doing it with a regroup, is that you don't get enough opportunities to attack because of, the spike problem that we mentioned. So that's why...
So it's mainly defensive. It's mainly like a working defense.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't use it as an attack. Although I think it would be really powerful as an attack.
So on that note, do you think it's merited that since he's a 13 health solo fighter that he needs to have 3 movement?
We mentioned that. Matt thought it would be way too powerful as a 3 move because then he would be such a almost unstoppable aggressive force. But after playing it, after 2 games, I don't know, maybe 3 movement would be okay. Because if you give him a higher health total, that would be the other way to fix it, right? Because then he can outlast better, so the opponent might have to go approach him, but that is probably oppressive.
That was my concern with it, was like, originally I had his health at 12, I bumped it up to 13, because I felt like that was kind of a better spot for him.
Yeah.
But like, when I was doing my independent testing, I was finding, even at that 12 health total, he was formidable against the characters that didn't want to kite him around.
Yeah.
Because so often he's going to hit his defense and then bump it too high or not take any damage.
Yep. Yeah, so I could definitely see that. So I wouldn't
change the move.
You don't think so?
If anything, I would consider the other changes, like to adding movements and things like that to scheme, bring it on, ways that he can get to another character without losing actions, making the most of turns, being efficient. Maybe I'd give him 1 more health. Try it at 14, maybe, see if that is too oppressive, and and kind of call it a day. See if that changes things.
So I do like the idea of adding 2 copies of Bring It On. Adding those, what 2 cards would you guys cut?
100% Daring Strike.
Yeah, I would cut all the Daring Strikes,
Yeah.
and I might even give him another, like a third scheme or something. John and I were throwing that around
Yeah,
a
like
little
the
bit.
third, what was that card called?
The healing one.
Yeah. Okay, so thinking about that also, if you want to load up the deck with a few more scheme cards, it might be more often the case where you end up using Thoughtless action to attack with a scheme. Now, in that scenario, that like, let's say you have Bring It On the top, and you want to kill a 1 health sidekick, if you attack with Thoughtless action, it's a 0, and even if they let the attack go through, you're not going to kill it. Do you think that's an issue, or would you want to make it a 1 value if you're attacking with a scheme?
I don't know. I thought about that originally too, because originally Thoughtless Action started as a 2, and then I realized that anytime it copied a scheme, it became a 0, and anytime it copied any other card, it became whatever that card's value was. So it's almost like its printed value was always 0. But yeah, it's an interesting point because it's effectively like an attack that you can mistakenly do no damage. So that might be worth adjusting. It would let me clean up the text on it a little bit too. So yeah, that is a good note.
Yeah.
Because then I could give it a printed value of 1, and then just say that if it's a scheme, it doesn't copy the attack value.
Yeah,
'cause
exactly.
It doesn't have one.
Right. Yeah, I think that would be good.
So
yeah,
it
there's
becomes
also the possibility of the Thoughtless action infinity loop we did, John.
Yeah, what happens if you have a Thoughtless action on top and you use Thoughtless action to copy that? Does it just go in an infinite loop and you can just time the opponent out and they have to concede?
No, so anytime there's an infinite loop, I always operate on I don't remember if it's Magic Gathering or something else, but there's one that basically you can only do the same decisions in a loop 1 time, and then the loop breaks by default.
Okay. Sure. That makes sense. I like that. Any other notes or questions?
So with Thoughtless Action being a 1, I think I probably will go with the weaker variant of Stillness of Mind, because otherwise that when Thoughtless Action copies that, it becomes basically deal 1 damage, move up to 2, and then move up to 2 spaces or recover 2 health or gain 1 action. So it'd be a little bit too powerful. It will be funny though, because it'll be deal 1 damage and then Bring It On.
Yeah.
No, I do like the way that feels into his schemes. I think that one is fun. And that card went through a lot of variations before it landed where it is.
The Thoughtless action?
Yeah. Yeah, originally it was a scheme, but it was
wow.
really like kind of kludgy to try to make it work. But the very first version of it, what it did was it blind played the top card of your deck and then put it into your hand instead of discarding it afterwards.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but the problem with that was if you didn't have somebody in attack range and you pulled an attack, you whiff the attack. It's an unplayable card. Right. So it felt more elegant to flip it to an attack that could copy attacks.
Yeah, I definitely like what it is now. It works perfectly fine. It was good. It was funny because when I was doing my deck review, I brought up the fact when I first saw that card, because that was the first one I reviewed because it was at the top, and I was like, okay, there's probably no pure defense cards in this deck because otherwise how would that work? And you made sure to clarify on the schemes, so I called that out right off the bat, and I was right. It was funny.
Yeah.
But love that
exactly
card.
Why there's no pure defense cards.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, Exposed Flaws was going to be a defense card, but as soon as I designed Thoughtless Action, I'm like, nope, it's versatile now. So if the opponent blurs and if he blocks, he draws cards.
Yeah, I like how it is now. Very cool card. Yeah. Definitely, it was like if not both of our favorite cards.
What'd you guys think of the card art?
Oh, Matt, go ahead.
It was great. Yeah, I thought it was awesome. The card back is dope, and the art is helpful because it's very colorful and on brand with the back. And then at the same time, it, like John mentioned, it makes such a difference just identifying certain cards and not having to retext constantly. So, yeah, it's perfect. Yeah. It's very cool.
Well,
very abstract but artistic.
Thank you. When I was going through them, I'm like, uh-oh, these two look too similar. So I think I made 26 card arts total,
Wow.
and then use the viable ones.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know how you did that, but they really turned out great. So, well done.
Yeah, I'm actually really proud of some of them. Like, some of them actually almost look like art.
Yeah, for real. And it's cool too because even though they're so abstract, some of them you can kind of see how it resembles that card. You know what I mean? Like it's fitting in a way, and it's really cool.
Yeah, I'm planning on saving Stillness of Mind. I think that is my absolute favorite one. I am glad they were useful.
Yeah, and that was a big help.
Congratulations, you were able to make me art a deck. That is the first one.
Yes, first time, huh? I
Yes.
unlocked an achievement here. All right, Gary.
All right, guys.
Anything else?
No, I think we're all set.
Sweet. Yeah. Well, thanks for coming on. Matt, thanks for joining me on the stream and playing. It was a blast, as always.
Yeah, likewise.
And anybody watching, thanks for checking it out. Go test out Kojiro. He's going to be in the guild for over another week still, right? He doesn't rotate until next Sunday?
Yep, next Sunday morning he'll rotate out. So you have all of this weekend, and then next week and next Saturday. But
Yeah, sweet.
Saturday after midnight, basically, he'll rotate out.
Awesome. So yeah, guys, definitely make sure you go give this deck a shot. It is going to be a little bit updated after our stream tonight, I guess. So looking forward to the new and improved version. But it's a super cool deck idea, so go try it out and leave your comments on the Reddit page. Thanks for watching, and Gary and Matt, thanks a lot for joining me.
Thanks. Later.
All right, guys. Catch you next time.
Okay.
All right, guys, so that's going to do it for round 11 of the Playtesting Guild. Hopefully Gary got some quality feedback, and I'm really looking forward to the new and improved Sasaki Kojiro coming soon. As always, make sure you comment down below, give us your thoughts, like the video if you enjoyed it, and subscribe if you want to see more of this kind of stuff. So, thanks again for watching. I'm ZeroSkater12, and I'll see you next time.